The revenge was complete, and Milarepa had everything he had set out to win. The proud relatives were broken. The village that had scorned his family lay battered by ruin and hail, and the whole region trembled at his name. By the measure he had carried in his heart for years, he had triumphed. Yet in the very hour of his triumph, something began to turn in him, quietly at first, then with a force he could not stop. The young man who had wielded storms and brought down a house full of guests found that he could not look at what he had done. The faces came to him. 35 people had died in the collapse of his uncle's house, the sons of his kin among them and wedding guests who had wished no harm to anyone. He had not seen them die, but now he saw them all the same, again and again. The harvest he had beaten flat with hail had been the bread of poor families. The bitterness that had felt so righteous, so deserved, now tasted only of ashes. He had wanted justice, and what he held in his hands was slaughter. For Milarepa, this was not merely the ordinary guilt that any person feels after doing wrong. He had been raised in a Buddhist land, and he understood with sudden and terrible clarity the law of karma. Every action carries its fruit. Acts of great evil ripen into great suffering, and the killing of many people, done with intention and cold skill, is among the heaviest of all. He saw his own future opening before him like a pit. After this life would come rebirth in the hell realms, ages upon ages of torment, the harvest of the seeds he himself had planted. No magic could undo it. The very power he had been so proud of had only dug his grave deeper. And here is the strange mercy of the story. A man who had become a master of destruction was now seized, not by despair alone, but by a fierce and burning question. Was there a way out? Could such karma be purified? Could a person who had sunk this low still climb toward the light, not in some distant future life, but now, in this very body, in this one short life that remained to him? The horror that crushed him became, at the same time, the seed of an immense longing. He no longer wanted revenge or wealth or respect. He wanted liberation, and he wanted it with his whole being. There was a sign of grace even in his old teacher. The master of black magic who had trained him was now growing old, and he too had begun to turn his mind toward the Dharma, weary of the dark arts that had been his trade. When he saw the change in his pupil, he did not hold him back. He released Milarepa from his service and blessed his wish to seek the holy teaching. So the man who had opened the door to evil now, in his own small way, helped to open the door to good. Milarepa set out to find a true teacher, a guru who could lead him to the purification of his enormous burden of negative karma. He came first to a certain lama who taught a teaching said to be so high, so perfect, that it could liberate the disciple without effort, that simply to hear it and rest in it was enough to be set free. To a man desperate for a shortcut, this sounded like salvation itself, but the teaching that asks nothing tends to give nothing. Milarepa, still carrying the old laziness and the old habits, settled comfortably into the promise and made no real effort. Days passed and nothing stirred in him. No insight, no warmth, no sign of progress at all. The Lama was an honest man, and honesty here was its own kindness. He looked at his student and admitted the truth. "I praise this teaching too highly," he said. "For you it is not enough, and I am not the teacher who can free you. You must go to another, to Marpa the translator, who has brought the true instructions from India. He is the master karmically bound to you. Go to him." And at the mere sound of that name, Marpa, something extraordinary happened in Milarepa. A joy he could not describe rose up through his whole body, so strong that the hairs of his skin stood on end and tears filled his eyes. It was not a thought or a decision. It was recognition, the deep, wordless certainty that this name belonged to his own destiny. Before he had met the man, before he had heard a single word of his teaching, his heart had already bowed. This is the turning of the whole life of Milarepa, and it teaches something that the gentler tellings sometimes miss. The same intensity that had made him a master of evil now made him a seeker without compromise. The man who does great harm and the man who does great good are often closer than we think, for both are capable of going all the way. What saved Milarepa was not that he was secretly good underneath. It was that he refused to look away from the truth of what he had done, that he let remorse cut him to the bone, and that he turned the full fire of his will from revenge toward freedom. No one, the story whispers, is beyond redemption, but redemption asks for everything. In the next chapter, we will follow Milarepa as he sets out at last to find this teacher whose name alone could move him to tears. And we will meet Marpa the translator, the fierce farmer sage of Ladrak, who was waiting for him with trials no one could have imagined.